I thought my life was perfect, until it wasn't. Ryan promised to love me in sickness and health, but when I got sick, he showed his true colors. While I lay in my hospital bed fighting for my life, my fiancé was sleeping with my best friend Mia. The woman who hugged me and promised to be there for me was sneaking off with my man the minute I fell asleep. He lied to my face when I confronted him, said the medicine was making me crazy. I watched their messages pop up on his phone. I heard their whispers when they thought I couldn't hear. The betrayal broke me completely that night. My heart stopped as their affair continued. But death wasn't the end for me. This time, I won't be their victim. I thought my life with Ryan was the kind of love most people only dream about. We met at a friend's birthday party 3 years ago, and from the moment our eyes locked across the room, something electric passed between us. He approached with a confident smile that made my heart flip, and by the end of the night, I knew he was special. Our relationship moved quickly but felt right at every step. Within 6 months, we had moved in together, combining our lives in a cozy apartment overlooking the park. Ryan worked in finance, always dressed in sharp suits that made my heart skip a beat even after years together. I managed a small art gallery downtown, a job that let me surround myself with beauty every day. The proposal came on our 2nd anniversary. Ryan took me to the rooftop restaurant where we had our first official date, got down on one knee under twinkling lights, and promised to love me forever. I cried as I said yes, believing with all my heart that we would grow old together. In the glow of our engagement, life seemed perfect. We spent weekends planning our wedding, debating between spring or fall, indoor or outdoor, small or large. Ryan seemed just as invested as I was, offering opinions on flowers and music that surprised me with their thoughtfulness. My best friend, Mia, was always there, helping us plan, offering suggestions, and listening to me gush about how lucky I felt. We had been inseparable since college, where we bonded over late-night study sessions and shared dreams. When I met Ryan, she had been the first person I called, and she had been my strongest supporter ever since. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were signs I chose to ignore. The way Ryan's eyes lingered on Mia a second too long when she entered a room. How their inside jokes sometimes excluded me. The occasional text that made Ryan smile in a way that stirred something uneasy in my stomach. But I trusted them both completely. Ryan was my future husband, and Mia was like the sister I never had. Our friend group thought we were the perfect trio. Weekends were filled with brunches, game nights, and hiking trips where laughter flowed as freely as wine. Everyone commented on how lucky I was to have both an amazing fiancé and such a supportive best friend. I would nod and agree, feeling on top of the world. Then came the headaches. At first, just occasional pounding behind my eyes that I blamed on wedding stress or work pressure. When they became more frequent, more intense, I finally made a doctor's appointment to ease Ryan's concerns. He insisted on coming with me, holding my hand in the waiting room, telling me everything would be fine. I believed him. The diagnosis hit like a truck. A rare condition that would require multiple treatments, hospital stays, and carried no guarantees. In an instant, wedding planning was replaced with medical research and insurance calls. The future we had been building suddenly felt like a house of cards. Ryan seemed supportive at first. He accompanied me to early appointments, asked questions, took notes. He held me when I cried after my first treatment, left me violently ill for days. Mia brought homemade soup and stayed to watch movies when Ryan claimed he needed to catch up on work. I was grateful for both of them, never suspecting what was happening when I wasn't looking. As weeks passed and my condition required longer hospital stays, I noticed changes. Ryan's visits grew shorter. He always had an excuse. Work was demanding, he was tired, he needed to handle things at home. I tried to be understanding, knowing my illness had upended our lives. Mia stepped in where Ryan stepped back. She visited almost daily, bringing books, gossip, and news from outside the sterile hospital walls. She often mentioned seeing Ryan, helping him cope with the stress of my illness. I remember feeling grateful that they had each other for support. On particularly bad days, when the pain was at its worst, Mia would sit beside my bed, stroking my hair and promising everything would be okay. She would stay until I fell asleep, then slip away with a gentle kiss on my forehead. I never questioned, where she went afterward. One Tuesday stands out clearly in my memory. Ryan had visited briefly during lunch, seeming distracted and checking his watch repeatedly. He left claiming an important meeting, kissing me so quickly I barely felt it. That evening, Mia arrived wearing a new perfume, something expensive and unfamiliar. When I complimented it, a flush spread across her cheeks. That same night, a nurse mentioned seeing my fiancé in the hospital cafe earlier. When I said he had left hours ago, she looked confused and described Ryan perfectly, sitting cozily with a dark-haired woman. My mind immediately rejected the implication. They were friends supporting each other during my illness. Nothing more. The next few visits brought more clues. Ryan's collar unbuttoned one too many, a smudge of lipstick on his cheek that didn't match what I wore in the hospital. Mia arriving minutes after Ryan left, slightly breathless. Her hair, not quite as perfect as usual. Still, I trusted them. Still, I made excuses. Then came the night that changed everything. Ryan was sitting beside my bed while I dozed, the medication making me drift in and out of consciousness. His phone pinged, and through barely open eyes, I saw Mia's name flash on the screen. Before he could swipe it away, I caught the message. Preview. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again when she's asleep. My heart seemed to stop, then race painfully. I opened my eyes fully and asked to see his phone. The panic that flashed across his face confirmed what I already knew. Still, I needed to hear him say it. I needed the truth after weeks of lies. Ryan's denial was immediate and fierce. He accused me of spying, of being paranoid from the medications. He claimed Mia was talking about a surprise they were planning for me. His eyes never quite met mine as he spoke, and his hands trembled slightly. I had never seen him lie so baldly before, and something broke inside me watching him do it. I asked him to leave. He protested, but eventually went, promising to return tomorrow when I was thinking more clearly. After he left, I lay in the dark, my mind racing through all the moments I had missed, all the signs I had ignored. The betrayal cut deeper than my illness ever could. That night, my condition took a devastating turn. Nurses rushed in as monitors, blared warnings. The last thing I remember was a crushing pain in my chest, worse than anything I had felt before. Darkness swept over me like a wave, and I surrendered to it, thinking this was the end of my story. I was wrong. I woke the next morning to Ryan sitting beside my hospital bed, his eyes red-rimmed from what he claimed was worry. The night before felt like a hazy nightmare, with doctors rushing in and machines beeping an alarm. They told me later I had gone into cardiac arrest. My heart had literally broken. Ryan held my hand too tightly, insisting he had been terrified of losing me. I studied his face, searching for truth, but only saw the mask he wore for the world. A perfect, caring fiancé devastated by his partner's illness. He had perfected that role for our friends, for my doctors, for everyone except me. I was so worried, he whispered, brushing hair from my forehead with a tenderness that made my stomach turn. When they called me, I rushed back immediately. I wondered how many lies he had told Mia to explain his sudden departure from whatever bed they had been sharing. I closed my eyes, pretending exhaustion to avoid responding. It was easier than calling him out again, only to face more denials. My hospitalization stretched into another week after the cardiac event. The doctors were concerned about the combination of my condition and the extreme stress response. If only they knew the real reason behind that stress. I overheard them discussing with Ryan how emotional distress could worsen my prognosis, and saw him nodding gravely, as if he hadn't been the cause. Mia visited the next day, bearing flowers and a forced smile. She hugged me carefully, mindful of the tubes and wires connecting me to various machines. Her perfume, the same one I had noticed before, made me nauseous. Or perhaps it was her presence that turned my stomach. "You gave us all quite a scare," she said, settling into the chair Ryan usually occupied. Ryan was beside himself. I bet he was, I thought, but forced a weak smile. Thanks for coming, and for helping Ryan through all this. I know it must be hard on him too. The guilt that flashed across her face was brief but unmistakable. Good, I thought. At least one of them still had a conscience, however buried it might be. Over the next few days, their visits fell into a pattern. Ryan would come early, carrying coffee and newspapers, playing the devoted partner. He would leave citing work, obligations, and within an hour, Mia would appear. They were careful never to overlap, as if seeing them together might break the fragile facade they had constructed. I began to watch more carefully, collecting evidence of their betrayal like specimens under glass. The subtle communications between them, the matching stories about where they had been. The faint mark on Mia's neck she tried to hide with her collar. The text notifications Ryan would quickly silence when they came through during his visits. One afternoon, Ryan left his jacket hanging on my visitor chair when he stepped out to take a call. Against my better judgment, but driven by a need to confirm what I already knew, I checked his pockets. His receipt from lunch showed a table for two at a restaurant across town. His credit card statement, checked through his banking app when I guessed his password, showed purchases at jewelry stores I had never received gifts from. Mia slipped up too. She mentioned seeing a movie that had just been released, one Ryan had also referenced, though neither admitted seeing it together. She wore a bracelet I didn't recognize, delicate and expensive looking. When I complimented it, she blushed and changed the subject quickly. My suspicions were confirmed one evening when my regular nurse entered looking uncomfortable. She hesitated before speaking, choosing her words carefully. "Your fiancé and your friend?" she began, adjusting my IV line with unnecessary attention. "They might want to be more discreet in the hospital parking lot. People talk." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Her expression was pure pity. "Honey, I saw them kissing in his car last night after visiting ours. I assumed you knew that maybe you had some arrangement." I thanked her for telling me, assured her I would handle it, then waited until she left before letting my tears fall. An arrangement. As if I would ever agree to the two people I trusted most betraying me while I fought for my life. That night, unable to sleep despite the sedatives, I scrolled through social media looking for more clues. Ryan rarely posted, but there it was, evidence hiding in plain sight. Check-ins at restaurants on evenings he claimed to be working late. Group photos where he stood just a little too close to Mia. Comments between them that seemed innocent unless you knew to look deeper. Mia's profile was more revealing. Cryptic status updates about complicated feelings and finding unexpected happiness. Photos carefully cropped but still showing a man's arm around her waist, a watch I had given Ryan visible on his wrist. She was flaunting their affair in coded messages that our mutual friends might miss, but that screamed the truth to me. When Ryan arrived the next morning, I decided to confront him directly. No more games, no more pretending. I deserved the truth, even if it shattered the last illusions I had about our relationship. "I know about you and Mia," I said as soon as he sat down, my voice steadier than I expected. His expression cycled rapidly through surprise, denial, and finally, a calculated concern. "What are you talking about? The medication must be affecting you more than we realized." "Stop it, Ryan. I saw the messages on your phone. The nurse saw you kissing in the parking lot. Just stop lying to me." He switched tactics seamlessly, reaching for my hand, which I pulled away. "You're confused, sweetheart. You've been through so much. Your mind is playing tricks on you. I would never do that to you. Neither would Mia." "Then show me your phone," I challenged. "Let me see your messages, your call history." He clutched his phone tighter, his knuckles whitening. "You want to check my phone?" "That's crazy, Sophia. That's not trust. The doctor said you might experience paranoia from the treatment, but this is worse than they warned." I felt something break inside me then. Not just my heart, but my faith in humanity. The man I had loved for 3 years, whom I had planned to marry, was gaslighting me instead of owning his betrayal. He was using my illness against me, trying to make me doubt my own mind rather than admit what he had done. "Get out," I whispered. Too tired for shouting. "Just go." Ryan stood, his face a mask of fake concern. "You're not thinking clearly. I'll talk to your doctor about adjusting your medication. We'll get through this, I promise." As he left, I noticed he was already texting someone. Mia, no doubt, warning her that I was growing suspicious. I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted, beyond words. The monitors beside me registered my increasing heart rate, my rising blood pressure. A nurse would come soon, concerned about my vitals. I didn't care anymore. What was the point of fighting to survive when the life waiting for me was built on lies? The pain in my chest returned, sharper than before. I struggled to breathe as darkness crept in from the edges of my vision. I heard the alarms begin to sound, distant and unimportant. Medical staff rushed in, their voices urgent but fading as consciousness slipped away. My last thought was that death might be a mercy compared to living with this betrayal. I surrendered to the darkness, letting it pull me under completely. I was wrong about death being the end. It was only the beginning. I gasped awake, my heart pounding against my ribs as I sat bolt upright. Not in a hospital bed surrounded by beeping machines, but in my own bedroom, morning light filtering through the curtains Ryan and I had picked out together. For a moment, I sat frozen, disoriented by the sudden change from sterile hospital to familiar bedroom. Ryan stirred beside me, mumbling sleepily. "You okay, babe? Bad dream?" I stared at him, unable to process his presence. The last time I had seen him, he had been lying to my face about his affair with my best friend. I had been dying, literally, as my heart gave out under the weight of their betrayal. Yet here he was, looking at me with what appeared to be genuine concern, no trace of guilt in his expression. "What day is it?" I managed to ask, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. Ryan reached for his phone on the nightstand. "Thursday, March 10th. Why?" March 10th. 6 months before my diagnosis. 6 months before I discovered their affair. 6 months before I died. I was alive again. Or maybe I had never died at all. Maybe the illness, the betrayal, the heartbreak had been nothing but a vivid nightmare. I wanted to believe that, but something deep inside me knew better. The memories were too real, too detailed to be a dream. Every lie, every secretive glance between them, every painful treatment I had endured. I remembered it all with perfect clarity. "Just confused for a second," I told Ryan, forcing a smile. "I need to shower." In the bathroom, I examined myself. In the mirror. No signs of illness yet. My face hadn't developed the pallor it would take on during treatment. My hair was still thick and healthy, not thinned by medication. But my eyes were different. They reflected knowledge no dream could have given me. Under the hot spray of the shower, I tried to make sense of what was happening. Somehow, I had been given a second chance. Reborn, not as a new person, but as myself with the foreknowledge of what was to come. The thought that should have terrified me instead filled me with a strange calm. This time, I wouldn't be caught unaware. This time, I would be prepared. At breakfast, I watched Ryan scrolling through his phone as he ate, studying him with new eyes. Had the affair already started, even now? Or was this still before, when he truly loved me, before Mia turned his head? Did it even matter? He would betray me eventually. That part of the future seemed fixed, written in stone. "I think I should see a doctor," I announced suddenly. Ryan looked up, surprised. "Are you sick?" Such concern in his voice. Was it genuine, or was he already practicing his role as the devoted partner? I couldn't tell anymore, and that uncertainty ignited a cold anger inside me. "Just a precaution," I said lightly. "Been having headaches. Probably nothing." His brow furrowed with what appeared to be genuine worry. "You never mentioned headaches before." "They just started," I lied. "Better safe than sorry, right?" He nodded, already returning his attention to his phone. "Let me know if you need me to go with you." I made the appointment that morning, 6 months before I would have in my previous life. The same doctor, the same tests, but this time I went unprepared. I described symptoms I hadn't yet experienced, but soon would. I insisted on specific scans I knew would reveal my condition. The diagnosis came faster this time, and without the shock that had accompanied it before. I started treatment immediately, aggressive therapy that caught my illness before it could gain the foothold it had the first time around. The doctor seemed surprised at my calm acceptance of the news, my methodical approach to treatment options. "Most patients need time to process," he remarked during my second visit. I gave him a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "I've had more time than you might think." Throughout these early medical appointments, I maintained my facade at home. I told Ryan about my diagnosis in the same way I had before, watching carefully for his reaction. The concern seemed real enough. He held me as I pretended to cry, promised we would get through it together, postponed wedding planning to focus on my health. Mia's reaction was equally convincing. She showed up at our apartment within an hour of my call, tears streaming down her face as she embraced me, swearing to be there every step of the way. I hugged her back and thanked her, all while remembering how those same arms would eventually wrap around my fiancé behind my back. "I don't know what I'd do without you two," I told them, watching their faces carefully. No guilt yet, no shared glances that spoke of secrets. Perhaps in this timeline, their betrayal hadn't begun, but it would. Of that, I was certain. With treatment started early, my prognosis improved dramatically. I wouldn't require the extensive hospital stays that had provided Ryan and Mia with the opportunity and excuse to grow closer in my absence. This change in circumstances required me to adjust my approach. No longer waiting to catch them in the act, I would need to be more proactive in uncovering what I knew would eventually develop. I began to watch them with new awareness, noting things I had missed the first time around. How Ryan's eyes followed Mia when she entered a room. How she always seemed to position herself to be in his line of sight. Small, almost imperceptible touches when they thought I wasn't looking. Seeds of betrayal, waiting to sprout. I installed tracking apps on Ryan's phone while he slept, set up recording devices in our apartment, created alternate email accounts to monitor their communications. Some might call it paranoid. I called it preparation. The first concrete evidence came 3 weeks after my diagnosis. A text from Mia to Ryan. "Can we talk alone? It's about her surprise." Innocent enough on the surface, but I knew better. There was no surprise being planned for me. It was their code, already developing, to arrange meetings behind my back. Ryan responded, "Coffee tomorrow? She has treatment at 2. I felt a cold satisfaction reading their exchange. Not hurt, not this time. Just confirmation of what I already knew. Their betrayal was inevitable, a fixed point in my timeline. But while the fact of their affair might be unchangeable, how it played out was entirely within my control. During my treatment sessions, now scheduled for mornings instead of afternoons, I began to craft my strategy. No longer the victim, I would be the architect of their downfall. I would watch their affair blossom, document every lie, every stolen moment, every betrayal, large and small. And when the time was right, I would use that evidence to destroy them both. Some nights, lying awake beside Ryan while he slept peacefully, I wondered if I should simply confront them now, end the relationship before their affair could fully develop. But that would deprive me of the justice I deserved. Quick anger followed by a clean break wasn't enough. They needed to experience the same pain, the same public humiliation, the same complete destruction of their world that I had endured. So, I played my role perfectly, the brave patient fighting illness, the loving fiancé, the trusting friend. I accepted Ryan's increasingly transparent excuses for his absences. I thanked Mia for her support, pretending not to notice when she arrived wearing Ryan's favorite cologne. All the while, I gathered evidence, photos of them together when they claimed to be elsewhere, screenshots of their messages, records of money from our joint account spent on gifts for her, credit card statements showing dinners for 2 on nights Ryan told me he was working late. My illness improved steadily under the early intervention, but I maintained the appearance of someone still struggling, still vulnerable. I needed them to believe I remained oblivious, trapped in my own health concerns, while they carried on their affair with increasing boldness. In quiet moments alone, I would sometimes reflect on the strangeness of my situation. Was this really a second chance at life, or some elaborate hallucination my dying brain had created? In the end, it didn't matter. Real or not, I had been given an opportunity for justice, and I would take it. As the pieces of my plan fell into place, I felt something I hadn't experienced since before my illness. Power. No longer the victim, no longer the fool. This time, I was in control, and they would never see me coming. By the third month of my second chance, I had compiled an impressive dossier on Ryan and Mia's betrayal. What had been subtle hints in my previous life now stood out with painful clarity. The way they positioned themselves at group gatherings to always be within sight of each other. The synchronized bathroom breaks at restaurants. The nearly identical excuses for being unavailable at certain times. I maintained meticulous records of everything. Text messages intercepted through the spyware on Ryan's phone. Email exchanges captured via the keylogger I'd installed on our home computer. Photographs taken by the nanny cam I'd hidden in our living room bookshelf, ostensibly to check on our cat while we were out, but perfectly positioned to capture the couch where they often sat too close together when they thought I was resting, in the bedroom. Most devastating was the discovery that their affair had indeed started before my illness, even in this timeline. A recovered deleted text from Ryan to Mia dated 2 weeks before my diagnosis. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? Just us? The betrayal cut deep, but differently this time. Not the shocked pain of my previous life, but a cold, clarifying anger that fueled my determination. They had been lying to me even before fate dealt me the additional blow of serious illness. There would be no mercy in my response. My reconnaissance expanded beyond their relationship. I began to look more closely at Ryan's work, curious if other areas of his life contained similar deceptions. It didn't take long to uncover financial improprieties that shocked even me. Ryan worked as an investment manager at a boutique firm downtown. His clients trusted him with significant sums of money, which he was supposed to invest according to strictly defined parameters. But my investigation revealed that he had been skimming small amounts from various accounts, just enough to fund an increasingly lavish lifestyle without raising immediate alarms. I tracked the money trail through bank statements and credit card receipts, expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, a weekend getaway to a luxury resort where I'd never set foot, a diamond bracelet purchased on a day he claimed to be stuck in budget meetings. The same bracelet I had noticed sparkling on Mia's wrist during one of her hospital visits in my previous life, and that she now wore whenever Ryan might see it, but never when we were alone together. More disturbing was the discovery that Mia had been helping herself to my resources as well. My best friend since college, the woman who knew all my passwords as a matter of convenience and trust, had been making small transfers from my personal savings account to hers for months. Just $50 or $100 at a time. Sums I might not notice amid the chaos of medical bills and treatment costs. A sick feeling settled in my stomach as I realized the extent of their duplicity. This wasn't just an affair born of proximity during my illness. It was a calculated betrayal by two people who had decided that their desires mattered more than loyalty, honesty, or basic human decency. Armed with this knowledge, I moved to the next phase of my plan. Creating anonymous social media accounts was simple enough. I established two distinct online personas, one to befriend Ryan and another to connect with Mia. Each account was carefully crafted to appeal to their specific vanities and interests. For Ryan, I created Investment Guru 87, a profile that appeared to belong to a successful financial advisor who had recently relocated to our city. I engaged with his professional posts, offered insightful comments on market trends, and gradually established myself as someone whose opinion he valued. Once the groundwork was laid, I began dropping subtle hints about having seen his fiancé's best friend with another man. "Wasn't that your fiancé's friend I saw at Le Bistro last night? She seemed very cozy with her date. Tall guy, dark hair, expensive watch." Ryan's response was immediate and revealing. "Are you sure it was her? What time was this?" For Mia, I created Fitness and Fashion 2025, a lifestyle influencer persona that shared her interest in designer clothes and boutique fitness studios. After building rapport through comments and direct messages, I began to plant similar seeds of doubt. "I think I saw your friend's fiancé at that new bar downtown yesterday. He was with some colleagues, but he seemed very friendly with the blonde woman beside him." "Sorry if that's awkward to mention." Mia's reply came within minutes. "Which blonde? Did you get a good look at her? Just wondering if it was someone from his office." The eagerness of their responses confirmed what I had suspected. Despite their affair, neither trusted the other completely. It was almost too easy to exploit the cracks in their relationship, to widen them with carefully placed insinuations and fabricated sightings. While this psychological warfare progressed online, I continued gathering concrete evidence in the real world. I needed irrefutable proof, something so damning that denial would be impossible when the time came for exposure. My opportunity came when Ryan mentioned needing to go out of town for a weekend conference in Chicago. A quick check of his work calendar, which I had access to through his synced accounts, showed no such conference scheduled. When Mia mentioned a girl's trip to a spa that same weekend, the trap practically set itself. I announced my own plans to visit my parents, claiming my doctor had cleared me for short travel now that my treatment was progressing well. Both Ryan and Mia expressed appropriate enthusiasm for my improved health, even as relief flickered in their eyes at the perfect timing of our separate trips. "Are you sure you'll be okay traveling alone?" Ryan asked, the picture of concern. "Absolutely," I assured him. "Mom and Dad are so excited to see me, and the change of scenery will do me good." The pieces were in place. I rented a hotel room in the city, but told my parents I was staying home for treatment. I packed a bag and left it visibly in the trunk of my car for Ryan to notice. Then I parked a few blocks away, returned using my spare key, and set up position in our guest room, which had a clear view of the living room through its partially open door. The hidden cameras were already in place, motion activated and ready to record. Additional microphones ensured I wouldn't miss a word. As final preparation, I set up timed social media posts from my actual account, showing pre-taken photos at my parents' house to maintain the illusion of my absence. Then I waited. Ryan left. First, suitcase in hand, kissing me goodbye with promises to call that night from Chicago. 3 hours later, Mia texted that her spa weekend was amazing and she'd turned off her phone for a digital detox, so I shouldn't worry if I couldn't reach her. Night fell. I sat in darkness, patient as a hunter in a blind. At precisely 8:43 p.m., I heard a key in the lock. Ryan had given Mia her own key to our apartment. The betrayal was so thorough it almost made me laugh. They entered together, already kissing before the door closed behind them. They didn't bother with lights, didn't check for my presence, didn't take basic precautions. Their confidence in their deception was absolute. I watched through the crack in the door as they moved to our couch, the same couch where Ryan and I had planned our wedding, heard their whispers, their declarations, their promises to each other, witnessed intimacy that should have broken my heart, but instead hardened my resolve. When they moved to our bedroom, I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The evidence was secured, their betrayal documented beyond any possibility of denial. I slipped out silently and returned to my hotel room, where I spent the night reviewing the footage, selecting the most damning segments, and finalizing the next steps of my plan. The trap had been sprung. Now it was time to ensure they destroyed not just me, but each other. The Monday after the weekend sting operation, I returned home with my suitcase and a bright smile, sharing fictional stories about my parents while Ryan nodded attentively. He looked tired, claiming the conference had been exhausting with late-night networking events. I noticed a small bruise on his neck that he had attempted to cover with his collar. "Sounds like you had quite the weekend," I said, keeping my tone light. "I hope it was worth it." A flicker of uncertainty crossed his face before he masked it with a smile. "Just the usual corporate stuff. How was your treatment session this morning?" I had indeed scheduled an appointment that morning, partly to maintain my cover story and partly because, despite everything, I was still committed to my health in this second chance at life. "Actually, I have good news," I told him, watching his reaction carefully. "The doctor says I'm responding exceptionally well to treatment, much better than they expected." "That's great, babe." His enthusiasm seemed genuine, which confused me momentarily. Did he want me to recover, even as he betrayed me? Or was he simply that skilled at maintaining his facade? "Yes, it's almost miraculous," I continued. "The doctor wants to write a case study about my recovery rate." That night, as Ryan slept beside me, I put the next phase of my plan into motion. I had discovered through my monitoring of his work email that his firm was already investigating financial discrepancies in several client accounts. They just hadn't connected the dots to Ryan yet. An anonymous email from me, with carefully selected evidence attached, would help them make that connection. I composed the message meticulously, positioning myself as a concerned colleague who had noticed suspicious transactions. I included dates, account numbers, and transfer records that pointed unmistakably to Ryan's involvement, while being careful not to reveal how I had obtained this information. The next step involved Mia's boyfriend, a detail I had almost forgotten from my first life. In the chaos of my illness and discovery of their betrayal, I had barely registered that Mia had been dating someone else throughout her affair with Ryan. Eric was a software engineer who traveled frequently for work, which had given Mia plenty of opportunities to see Ryan undetected. I created another anonymous email account and sent Eric a message with selected screenshots of texts between Ryan and Mia. Just enough to make it clear they were involved, without revealing my identity as the source. With these two bombs planted, I turned my attention to driving a wedge between the lovers themselves. Using my fake social media accounts, I continued feeding them conflicting information. I told Ryan that Mia had been seen having drinks with her ex. I told Mia that Ryan had lunch with a female colleague and they seemed unusually close. The seeds of doubt took root quickly. Through the monitoring software on Ryan's phone, I watched their text exchanges grow increasingly suspicious and accusatory. Ryan, where were you yesterday afternoon? I tried calling twice. Mia, with Sophia, like I told you. Why? Ryan, someone said they saw you with a guy at Riverside Cafe. Mia, are you having me followed? That's creepy, Ryan. Ryan, just answer the question. Were you with someone? Their paranoia fed on itself, each doubt confirming the last, creating a cycle of suspicion that needed no further input from me. The foundation of trust upon which even their illicit relationship depended was crumbling rapidly. 2 weeks after sending the anonymous tips, results began to materialize. Ryan came home ashen-faced one evening, claiming he needed to work late the next few days on an urgent project. Through my surveillance, I knew the truth. His firm had called him into a meeting with their legal bug department and security team. They were building a case against him for financial misconduct. Meanwhile, Eric had confronted Mia about the messages, leading to a blowout fight that she complained about to Ryan, unaware that he was dealing with his own crisis. Their relationship was fragmenting under pressure from all sides. The final stage of my plan required bringing everything to a head simultaneously. I organized a dinner party at our apartment, inviting our closest friends, including Mia and Eric. Ryan, distracted by his work troubles, agreed without much thought. On the day of the dinner, I visited my doctor for a scheduled checkup. The news was better than even I had expected. I've never seen anything like it, my doctor said, reviewing my latest test results. Your condition has improved beyond our most optimistic projections. I wouldn't use the word remission yet, but we're approaching that territory. I thanked him, genuinely grateful for this second chance at health that had accompanied my second chance at life. Whatever cosmic force had sent me back had given me the opportunity not just for revenge, but for healing. That evening, as our guests arrived for dinner, the atmosphere was tense despite my efforts to appear the perfect hostess. Ryan kept checking his phone nervously. Mia and Eric sat stiffly beside each other, barely speaking. Our other friends, sensing the undercurrents but unaware of their cause, tried valiantly to maintain conversation. Over dessert, I stood to make an announcement. All eyes turned to me, expectant. I want to thank you all for coming tonight, I began, especially since I have wonderful news to share. My doctor confirmed today that my treatment has been remarkably successful. I'm well on the road to recovery. Genuine congratulations erupted around the table. Even Ryan and Mia seemed sincerely happy for me, their faces showing relief that momentarily overshadowed their personal dramas. I've learned a lot through this experience, I continued once the excitement had died down. About health, about life, and about the people I thought I could trust. The shift in tone was subtle, but unmistakable. Ryan's smile faltered. Mia glanced toward the door. In fact, I've prepared a little presentation to express my gratitude for everyone's support during this difficult time. I moved to my laptop, connected to our TV screen, and pulled up a folder labeled Appreciation. With one click, I launched what appeared to be a slideshow, but was actually a carefully edited compilation of evidence. It began with screenshots of texts between Ryan and Mia, dated before my diagnosis. Then financial records showing Ryan's embezzlement from work accounts, with clear documentation of money spent on Mia. Next came footage from my hidden cameras, showing them entering our apartment together during their supposed separate weekend trips. The room fell silent except for Eric's sharp intake of breath and someone's whispered, "Oh my God." I let the evidence speak for itself, slide after damning slide revealing the full extent of their betrayal. When it ended, I turned to face the room. Ryan sat frozen, his face drained of color. Mia had tears streaming down her cheeks. Our friends looked shell-shocked, glancing between the three of us as if watching a car crash in slow motion. I thought, "You should all know the truth," I said simply. I've already forwarded relevant portions of this information to Ryan's company regarding the financial misconduct, and to the police concerning the theft from my personal accounts. Eric stood abruptly. "I need some air," he muttered, heading for the door without looking at Mia. Ryan finally found his voice. "Sophia, I can explain." "No need," I replied coolly. "The evidence explains itself." I turned to address our stunned friends. "Thank you all for coming. I think the party's over now." As our guests awkwardly gathered their belongings and filed out, murmuring uncomfortable goodbyes, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. The truth was out. Justice, or at least the beginning of it, had been served. Once everyone else had left, only the three of us remained in the apartment. The silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken accusations and futile defenses. "How long have you known?" Ryan finally asked. I smiled, a cold expression that held no warmth. "Longer than you can imagine." The aftermath of my dinner party revelation unfolded exactly as I had anticipated. Ryan was placed on administrative leave the very next day, pending an investigation into financial irregularities. His company's legal team contacted me for additional information, which I provided willingly, ensuring his professional destruction was thorough and complete. Mia faced her own consequences. Eric ended their relationship publicly and messily, posting a scathing breakup announcement that referenced her infidelity without naming names, but everyone in our social circle knew exactly who he meant. Her carefully curated social media presence, once filled with inspirational quotes about authenticity and trust, became a battleground of thinly veiled accusations and defenses as mutual friends took sides. I moved out of the apartment I had shared with Ryan, finding a bright, airy loft in a different neighborhood. The fresh start felt symbolic, a physical manifestation of my liberation from the toxic relationship that had once ended my life. My improving health added to the sense of rebirth, each clear scan and positive report confirming that my second chance extended beyond mere revenge. Ryan called constantly in those first few weeks, his messages evolving from desperate explanations to angry accusations and finally to pathetic pleas. I never answered, letting each call go to voicemail, collecting his increasingly unhinged messages as further evidence of his true character. My only direct communication was through my lawyer, informing Ryan that I was aware of his unauthorized access to our joint accounts, and that legal action would follow if he attempted to withdraw any additional funds. The threat was enough to secure my financial interests while I worked to disentangle our shared assets. Mia tried a different approach. She appeared at my new apartment one rainy evening, soaked and shivering, begging for 5 minutes of my time. Against my better judgment, I let her in, curious what possible explanation she could offer. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness," she began, perched uncomfortably on the edge of my couch. "What I did was unforgivable." "Then why are you here?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. I had moved beyond anger into something colder, more detached. "I just need you to know it wasn't planned. It just happened, and then we couldn't stop, and then you got sick, and everything was so complicated." Tears streamed down her face, mingling with raindrops from her wet hair. "That's your explanation? It just happened?" Multiple times over. Months in my home while I was fighting for my life? She flinched at the precision of my accusations. "When you put it that way, it sounds so calculated." But it wasn't like that. We were weak, selfish. "At least we agree on that much," I replied. "Ryan says you set us up, that you knew all along and were playing some kind of game. Is that true?" Her eyes searched mine, looking for something I wasn't prepared to give her. I smiled slightly. Does it matter? Would it make what you did any less betrayal if I had suspected and confirmed my suspicions? She had no answer for that. After a few more minutes of circular conversation, she left, shoulders slumped in defeat. I never saw her again, though I heard through mutual friends that she moved back to her hometown, her reputation in our city too damaged to salvage. Ryan proved more difficult to shake. As his professional life imploded, with his firm filing criminal charges for embezzlement, he became increasingly fixated on me as the source of his troubles rather than his own actions. His messages took on a threatening tone, blaming me for ruining his life and promising I would regret what I had done. I forwarded these communications to my lawyer, who helped me secure a restraining order. When Ryan violated it twice in the first month, he faced actual legal consequences, spending a weekend in jail that seemed to finally drive home the reality of his situation. Through it all, I maintained contact with certain mutual friends who kept me updated on both Ryan and Mia's downward spirals. Most satisfying was the news that they had briefly tried to find solace in each other after everyone else had abandoned them, only to have their relationship collapse under the weight of mutual suspicion. They're toxic together, my friend Jamie reported over coffee. Ryan accuses Mia of using him for money and status. Mia says Ryan only wanted her because she was your best friend, and it was some sick power thing. They can't be in the same room without fighting, but they keep gravitating back to each other because no one else will have anything to do with them. I nodded, sipping my latte, feeling a cold satisfaction at the image of them trapped in a hell of their own making. They had destroyed me in my previous life. In this one, they were destroying each other without any further input needed from me. 6 months after the dinner party revelation, my life had transformed completely. My medical team used words like miraculous and unprecedented to describe my recovery. I had a new job at a prestigious gallery across town, far from any reminders of my old life. I had carefully cultivated relationships with friends who had shown true loyalty during the upheaval, discarding those who had wavered or taken Ryan or Mia's side. The final piece of news came through Jamie, who had maintained peripheral contact with Ryan's social circle. Ryan had been convicted on multiple counts of financial fraud. He had avoided jail time through a plea deal, but his career in finance was permanently over. He was working at his uncle's car dealership in a small town 3 hours away, living in a studio apartment above the garage. Mia, meanwhile, had apparently tried to rekindle things with Ryan after her attempts to rebuild. Her life independently had failed. According to Jamie, they had moved in together in Ryan's dismal apartment, two pariahs united by mutual need and the absence of other options. They're miserable, Jamie told me during our monthly dinner. Ryan drinks too much. Mia is on anxiety medication. They fight constantly but stay together because they've convinced themselves the whole world is against them. It's honestly sad to watch. I nodded, feeling nothing but a distant pity for two people who had once meant everything to me. Some people create their own punishment, I observed. My phone buzzed with a notification. A text from Michael, the curator I had been seeing for the past month. Our relationship was new, cautious on my part, but refreshing in its honesty. He knew a simplified version of my history with Ryan, enough to understand my hesitation, but not so much that it defined me in his eyes. Looking forward to tonight, his message read. 7 p.m. at Lucia's still good? I smiled and responded affirmatively before returning my attention to Jamie. Tell me about your new project, I said, genuinely interested in her life, in moving our conversation away from the past I had so thoroughly put behind me. Later that evening, as Michael and I enjoyed dinner at my favorite Italian restaurant, I realized I had gone the entire day without thinking about Ryan or Mia until Jamie had mentioned them. Their power over me, the space they occupied in my mind, diminished with each passing week. You seem distracted, Michael noted, reaching across the table to touch my hand gently. Everything okay? I looked at him. This kind, honest man who had entered my life when I least expected it, but perhaps when I most needed it. Everything is perfect, I replied, meaning it. I was just thinking about how sometimes you have to go through the darkest times to appreciate the light. He nodded, not fully understanding the depths of what I meant, but accepting it nonetheless. To new beginnings, then, he said, raising his glass. To new beginnings, I echoed, clinking my glass against his. As we continued our meal, talking and laughing in the warm glow of the restaurant, I felt the last vestiges of my past life finally release their hold. I had been given a rare gift, a second chance to reclaim my destiny from those who had stolen it from me. I had used that chance not just for revenge, but for true rebirth. They were trapped in the hell of their own making, destroying each other day by day, exactly as I had once envisioned. And I was free, truly free, moving forward into a future that was entirely my own,